Hello, you beautiful beings. It's Lane, and this is episode number 45 of the Unleash Your Life podcast. I love that you're here. So, what's in front of you? A glass of wine, a cup of coffee or tea, perhaps a bit of work because you're trying to multitask. I hope you're sitting in a comfy chair or riding around in your car surrounded by a beautiful view and ready to have a meaningful conversation with me. I'm at my desk with a fresh brewed dark roast coffee, and I am ready to dig in on this concept of the perfect time. It's something that can keep us moving forward or keep us stuck, as with everything in life, it has its own reflection. What side of the reflection do you want to see? Waiting for it or creating it? All right, give me a second to run the intro, and I'll be right back. This is the Unleash Your Life podcast, where you're going to learn to rewild yourself. I'm your host, Lane Smith Brown, and I'm a best-selling author and rewilding guide. And over the last 20 years, I've been guiding women back to their truest selves. You see, you were born wild with all the wisdom you will ever need to navigate your life in a beautiful and powerful way. Then, just like everyone else on the planet, you got tamed as you fell under the power and influence of others who were also tamed. All that taming you got as a kid has you convinced you are less powerful than you really are. I call all of that unconscious programming power leaks. And on this show, you're going to discover yours, and then you're going to choose to plug them so you can get back to the wild, wise, and powerful being that you are. So grab a coffee, glass of wine, or a favorite friend, or all three, and let's talk about what living your wild self can mean for you. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about this illusion of the perfect time. This one's rather close to home right now, as I spent the last couple of days waiting for the perfect time on a couple of things, and the target kept moving little by little, constantly seeming just out of reach. I'd get close enough to touch it some days, or in some moments, and then it scampered away again. Truth is, every moment is the perfect moment. We just simply allow ourselves to think that the perfect moment is something we earn, or create, or build, or wait for. The perfect moment is simply when we are in a position to hear our higher self moving us forward. I have been bouncing back and forth between head and heart and was experiencing a bunch of ping-ponging through certain areas of my life. You see, I've been on another learning curve for the last while. I'm not even sure why I said that, because I'm always on a learning curve. It's just how my life has been over the last 30 years. Sometimes I feel like I have my shit together, and then all of a sudden it feels like I haven't learned a thing. It's all the illusion, that you're back to square one. That's just your ego being all chirpy and negative and happy that it's got an opening to squeeze in with all kinds of negative self-talk and defeating thoughts. Some of you know I just built a new course that I'm super stoked about because it speaks to all of this. The chirpy ego convincing us that we're this finite human living a finite life. Deadlines, expectations, problems, disappointment, worry, fear, lack. I could go on, but you probably know what I'm speaking of. I've been rather taken with this concept of using peace to create the life you want. For me, it's the door to solving any perceived problems. But as irony would have it, it was such a big part of the learning. I've allowed myself to live in a bit of chaos as I worked on the technical aspects of delivering this new offering, because it's a unique approach. So there was quite a bit of a learning curve for me. It's a bit odd, this whole world of working online. I've always seen myself as a teacher, mostly because I adore conversations and learning, and coaching one-on-one is always a two-sided win for me. Never teacher and student, but instead two teachers and two students moving back and forth between each other. Much of what I create online has a bit of a one-sided feel, because it is. One posts content and a handful of people take the time to comment or email, something I absolutely love, by the way. But most people keep that to themselves. It's okay. I have cats, so I'm not entirely alone. It has everything to do with the fact that we are social beings and community is an integral part of who we are. Even if we enjoy time alone, we also long for connection. For me, it's also remnants of my own childhood stories playing out, the kidhood stuff I've been referring to as power leaks. This all came to a head yesterday. I had such an emotionally dark day, feeling like an utter failure, inept at everything. Funny how it's so all or nothing with our egoic voice, isn't it? It's just so melodramatic. When we are connected to our higher self, life flows differently than it does when we try to make decisions from our head, when we try to navigate anything with our head. You know that, don't you? Intuition is just this magical, peaceful connection we have that takes away the need to orchestrate perfect timing, because the moment is in and of itself perfect. So yesterday, nothing was working. I was trying to do something on the tech side of things, and it was one seemingly epic fail after epic fail. I knew I didn't want to be in that headspace, but I still stayed caught up in it. Just more chirpy ego keeping you enthralled in the loop, getting you to follow the line of if I just try harder, it'll work. That never works. Then last night, enough was enough, and I got back in my heart. And this morning, what had me feeling so horribly stupid yesterday was completed in less than 5 minutes. Zero solution in 10 hours of being in my frenetic ego mind, and full perfect solution inside of 5 minutes after I took the time to take a breath from the ego's incessant chatter. Oh, the irony of me teaching about plugging your power leaks and me having a gaping power leak that I could have lost a mountain in. Well, it goes to show that you can't teach what you don't know, right? All I've wanted to do over the last few years is make these concepts easy so that people are curious enough to give it a go. I know that when they get a taste of it, they'll be hooked. So I'm the guinea pig, and I'm okay with that. Power leaks are simply a result of us listening to the busy monkey mind for some or most of the day. I do it, you do it, we all do it. The win is learning to shorten your stay in your monkey mind. That's it. Just learn to shorten your stay. To be able to recognize it and jump out of it, this is the gem of awakening. Truth be told, probably 95% of the population is living 95% of their life in their monkey mind and feeling paralyzed most of the time as a result. I'm going to give you a metaphor today that was recently taught to me that is an incredibly powerful image to have in your mind as you move through your life. Here it goes. If you've ever watched the news on regular TV, you'll know what I mean when I say the crawl at the bottom of the screen, right? News agencies started using these many years ago now. On the actual screen, you see newscasters tell you all the gloom and doom of the day. As if that wasn't bad enough, they then doubled down on the negative information by having a little band of information running across the very bottom of the screen. If memory serves, it used to contain information about the stock market, and then it switched to all kinds of random bad news from around the globe. It was incredibly distracting because the way our subconscious minds work, it's trying to take all of that in. So we're hearing the voices and seeing the faces of the people on the screen. And then our eyes are darting down at the moving script across the bottom. And it's mesmerized and confused as it tries to decide what part of this is the most important. Then, in its overwhelm, the ego quickly reduces it all to either fear or worry. And you feel that throughout your whole body. But you forget why. You forget that it was because you were trying to absorb all of that information, and what you're left with is the turmoil, however that ends up manifesting for you. All right, so let's get back to this analogy. Put yourself back into the place where you're watching a television screen, and on that screen, is this moving band of information. And I'll guess 97% of that information is bad news. News corporations could not make any money reporting on good news. That's sad. Bad news sells advertising. Bad news keeps you glued to the screen. Bad news keeps you in fear. So you hunger for the solution that someone is offering, whether it's a new car, a better credit card, or a pill that can solve a problem you didn't know you had. That's still all the remnants of our prehistoric ancestry and how our mind evolved to keep us safe by gearing us to focus on the threats, but not any of the promise or the possibilities. Okay, enough of that for now. Let's just get you back to the image of the television screen and the band of information at the bottom. But let's switch the show from being about the news and let's make it about your life. Got it? So there you are, looking at a vision of your life, and it's beautiful. All your dreams are on that screen. The things you imagine yourself doing and having are on that screen. Moments with people you love are on that screen. Dreams of people you want to bring into your life are on that screen. Books you want to read, experiences you want to have, the trips you want to go on, the courses you want to take, the skills you want to acquire are all on that screen. And below all those glorious images is a crawl of information at the bottom that says things like you shouldn't want that, you can't afford that, that's too extravagant, you don't have the time, people like us don't do that kind of stuff, it'll be too dangerous, it'll be too risky, people will think you're silly. That crawl or band of information is relentless and 100% negative. That crawl of information is your egoic mind throwing excuses at you to distract you from what you have in mind for yourself and your future. That band of information will never tell you to take a chance on yourself. It will never encourage you to take a risk. It will never push you towards expanding your horizons. It will never suggest you get out of your comfort zone and stretch yourself a little bit. It will never encourage you to learn new ways to do your life, where its power is going to be diminished and you learn to tap into your higher self. That band of information does not want you to grow and change in any way, shape, or form. So we want to create more beauty in our life, and we get distracted by that crawl. And we can feel it in every part of our being and convince ourselves that's normal. It's not normal. It is only the way we evolved because of our conditioning. Isn't that a powerful image of how our minds work? I think this one's going to stick with you. It sure is sticking with me. What if we focused on the glorious picture of the good stuff in our current life and the new stuff we'd like to bring into that life and keep our energy there? Most of the world will ignore that beautiful picture in favor of watching the crawl. List out all of the reasons why they shouldn't focus their attention on better and more fulfilling ways of walking in the world. But you now understand on another level what's really going on. Maybe you want to understand yourself more deeply and connect to that wisdom heart of yours that knows you're worth every minute of effort. So get to know yourself and fall more deeply in love with yourself. Maybe you want to know with every fiber of your being that your life is meant to be lived in a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. And your monkey mind is distracting you with a crawl of information that is pulling your attention away from what you do want and trying to convince you of your limitations and the risk of changing. Peace comes from recognizing the distracting habits of our subconscious mind and placing our attention on the fact that we are not just this body having a limited experience for a limited time. We are unlimited beings having a human experience, often placing our unlimited being behind a veil and then wondering why life is so hard. The human experience is meant to be enjoyed, but that is accomplished when we learn to connect with the unlimited part of us. But if we can pull our attention away from the crawl, that veil begins to lift and the volume of our life gets louder and louder. Imagine a life where worry is never a distraction. Fear doesn't try to engage us. Lack has no sting. Insecurity is a foreign concept. There is no room for undeservability, and every moment is the perfect moment. You may not be able to comprehend that right now, what that would feel like to live your days like that, but it's available for you if you want it. Enlightened people are not special or chosen. They are simply human beings that have decided it is worth the effort to them to learn to quieten the crawl of information coming across the screen of their lives, until one day the crawl disappears and the veil is lifted and reveals their unlimited nature. You desire that life, a better life, a more connected life, or you wouldn't be listening to the show. So how are you going to change it? How are you going to create it? How are you going to allow for it? Well, you're going to learn to turn off the scroll deliberately through your awareness of it. You see, as long as you're paying attention to that crawl, there will never be a perfect time to do anything. When you learn to take your attention away from the crawl, then every moment contains the perfect moment to do anything. When you're not paying attention to the crawl, you are accessing the enlightenment I spoke of earlier. That means you are in the presence of your own divinity. And yes, you can have seconds and moments of enlightenment on your way to hours, days, weeks, months, and even years of it. That's how it will unfold for most of us. That's where I'm at right now. I have been uncovering some monkey mind behavior that I was, until recently, unaware of. You see, that's the way of this work. You understand to a certain level, and then when that really clicks, your divine self wants to take you deeper. And that can take some getting used to. And your ego chirps in that you're still not getting it, but you are. There's just more layers to the onion, as it were. And that's perfectly fine. There have been times in my life where I've been pretty good at turning off the crawl. And then I allow myself to get distracted by the busyness of my life, or get discouraged that I had caught on to something significant and then promptly forgot it. So I forget what it feels like to be present in the moment, aware that I am not this human being, but instead a spiritual being who is having a human experience, as is everyone else on the planet, including you. That crawl across the bottom of the screen of our lives keeps us thinking we are merely human. We can go through our entire day and not feel connected to the divine, not connected to our true selves, not connected to the perfect wisdom that can guide us through our day. I'm curious how this metaphor is working for you. Can you see how much of your day is spent focused on the crawl, in a state of being scared, confused, or hopeless, stuck in repetitive behaviors and reactions? We are all meant to unleash our lives. For those of you who are not familiar with that term, I'm going to just reiterate the story I have mentioned in other podcasts, as it can be another powerful image for you to have in your mind going forward. If you've seen the cover of my book, you see a hummingbird riding on top of a cork that has just been recently released from a bottle of champagne. It's just grinning and enjoying the ride. Here's why I picked that image. There is a quote by Carolyn Myss, and she refers to something called the energetic force contained within the illusion. The energetic force contained within the illusion. When I first read that line, I knew it was for me, but I didn't understand it. And I spent years trying to figure out what she meant. Has it ever happened to you? Something rings true, yet you can't quite put your finger on it until one day it clicks? Well, that's where I was, mesmerized by the line, but confused by the line, until one day it became clear. We live in the illusion of what we've learned to believe about ourselves. So for the sake of this metaphor, that illusion is you thinking you're not powerful, beautiful, and made of the divine. That illusion is all of your energy trapped inside the bottle. Got it? That's the true you, corked and kept bottled up. That illusion, more than likely, has painted you as limited. After all, what can you do? You're trapped inside the illusion. When we do the work of waking up or getting rid of the crawl across the screen of your life, we wake up to the fact that we are powerful beyond measure. And that is the energetic force contained within the illusion. We've been living our lives less than. We've allowed our monkey mind to diminish our brilliance. And now we're shedding that illusion so we can live our more than lives. Learning to turn off the monkey mind crawl and living in the truth of who we are and what we came to offer. And that is what pops the cork, removing that lie or illusion, that distraction, that crawl of limitations and fear and worry, releases the truth of who you are and why you're here. The energetic force of your power contained within the illusion that you are merely a limited human being. You pop that cork and look out, sisters. Your life will light up. Are you ready to take your life up a notch or 10? Are you ready to pop whatever it is that you are currently believing that is having you play small, hidden away, playing safe? If you're ready to go deeper on this topic, I'm making a call out to any of you who want to decide for yourself in this moment that this is your time. This is the perfect time because it is the aligned time for you to learn the skills to quieten the crawl of distraction across the screen of your life so that you can live in the freedom of being who you came to be. If you're not feeling like your life is a celebration, like your life isn't full of ease and perfect timing, then scroll down in the show notes or pop over to weirdhummingbirds.com and watch a short video. You're looking for the link to the Free to Be Me Kickstarter. Click it, and if it speaks to you, then you're going to spend some time together and we'll have some time to work through some really cool stuff. There's something waiting for you, sisters, and it's time to say yes. Yes to you. I trust you've been part of this conversation in your own way, processing some of these words, becoming more aware of when and where you've been distracted by the crawl. You're not alone. I just want you to know that you're not alone. All of us are just trying to get a little closer to the light. And when we do that together, it just adds a whole new level to the experience. Thanks for showing up and staying until the end. Thanks for how you continue to support the show. If you got something out of this, do your part to spread the word about the work and the show. The more people doing this, the better our world gets, one beautiful being at a time. And if you haven't caught this yet, you can write me with a comment or a question, lane@weirdhummingbirds.com. It goes directly into my inbox. It's not my assistant or a robot, it's me. And I'd love to hear from you. And if you're hearing that whine in the background, that's my cat Mowgli, who has learned to have a voice bigger than she's ever had before, and it's kind of incessant. So if you are hearing that, you're welcome, or I'm sorry, I'm not exactly quite sure what to say. But until next time, stay weird, stay curious, keep popping your corks or plugging your power leaks, and now notice when you're in your crawl and get your eyes back to the big picture. Ta for now. Well, I hope this show rocked your world a little bit. If you want additional resources, check out the links in the show notes or at lanesmithbrown.com. And before you go, please subscribe to this podcast. It's how we get these tools into the world. And this world needs more wild women standing in their authentic power. Do that for me, will ya? Thank you.